Hi, I'm Madison. I'm an accountant at a mid-sized consulting firm here in Seattle. I spend my days making sure every number adds up, every transaction makes sense, and every penny is accounted for. I guess you could say I'm naturally careful with money. Maybe too careful. But that Tuesday evening in March, when my phone buzzed with Jessica's name flashing across the screen, all that careful planning went right out the window. Madison? Oh God, Madison, I need help. Jessica's voice was shaking, broken up by what sounded like genuine sobs. My little sister, 3 years younger than me at 25, had always been the dramatic one in our family. But this sounded different. This sounded real. Jess, what's wrong? Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. Nothing's okay. She was crying harder now, and I could hear her moving around, probably pacing like she always did when she was upset. It's Derek. His medical bills from the accident last month, they're way worse than we thought. And now they're saying if we don't pay by Friday, they're sending everything to collections. Derek was Jessica's boyfriend of about 8 months. I'd met him twice, maybe 3 times. Seemed nice enough, worked construction, had gotten hurt on a job site when some scaffolding collapsed. Nothing too serious, we'd thought, just a broken arm and some bruising. But apparently there had been complications. How much are we talking about, Jess? 5,000. The words came out in a rush. I know it's a lot, Madison. I know it is, but I don't have anyone else to ask. Mom and Dad are already stretched thin with Dad's retirement fund issues, and you know how they get about money. I can't ask them. But these bills. If Derek's credit gets ruined, he'll lose his apartment, maybe his job. The construction company is really strict about background checks and credit scores. $5,000. That was about 3 months of my savings plan. Money I'd been putting away for a down payment on a condo, but it wasn't impossible. I had it. And the way Jessica was crying, the desperation in her voice, I'd never heard her sound like that before. Are you sure there's no other way? No payment plan with the hospital? No insurance coverage? We tried everything, Madison, everything. They want a lump sum by Friday or it goes to collections. Please, I'm begging you. I'll pay you back as soon as I can, I promise. Derek's going back to work next week, and I've been picking up extra shifts at the restaurant. We'll figure it out, but we need this now. I looked at my laptop screen, my own checking account balance staring back at me. The money was there. And this was my sister. Family. The same little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who I'd helped with homework and driven to soccer practice when Mom was working late shifts. Okay, I heard myself saying. Okay, Jess, I can help. The relief in her voice was immediate and overwhelming. Oh my God, Madison, thank you. Thank you so much. You're literally saving our lives right now. I don't know what I would have done without you. Within 10 minutes, I'd transferred $5,000 to Jessica's checking account. Just like that. 3 months of careful saving, gone in the time it takes to order a coffee. But seeing that confirmation screen, knowing I'd helped my sister avoid financial disaster, it felt right. It felt like what family was supposed to do for each other. I'll start paying you back next month, Jessica had promised before we hung up. Maybe not all at once, but I'll set up a payment plan or something. Thank you again, Madison. I love you. I love you too, Jess. Take care of Derek, okay? For the rest of that week, I felt good about what I'd done. Really good. When my coworker Sarah mentioned her own sister asking for money and how conflicted she felt about it, I found myself saying, family helps family. Sometimes you just have to trust that they'll do the right thing. If only I'd known how wrong I was about to be. The following Wednesday started like any other day. Coffee, emails, spreadsheets, the usual accounting routine that kept my world orderly and predictable. I was eating lunch at my desk when I decided to take a quick break and scroll through Instagram. Nothing unusual about that. I followed maybe 50 people, mostly friends from college and a few lifestyle accounts I found relaxing. That's when I saw it. Jessica had posted a new photo about an hour earlier. She was standing in front of what looked like a high-end boutique, holding a shopping bag that I recognized immediately. The distinctive interlocking L and V pattern, the rich brown leather with golden hardware, Louis Vuitton. The caption read, "Treating myself after such a stressful month." Sometimes you just have to invest in quality pieces that make you feel confident. Self-care, act you're worth it, our new bag. I stared at that photo for a full minute, my sandwich forgotten in my hand, a Louis Vuitton bag. I didn't know much about designer fashion, but I knew enough to understand that those bags cost thousands of dollars. The kind of money that someone struggling to pay medical bills definitely shouldn't be spending. Maybe it was a fake. Maybe someone had given it to her. Maybe Derek had surprised her with it somehow, using money from a source I didn't know about. There had to be an explanation that didn't involve my emergency loan being used for luxury shopping. I scrolled down to see if there were any other recent posts. There were 3 more from the past week that I'd somehow missed. Jessica at a spa, getting what looked like an expensive facial treatment. Jessica at a trendy downtown restaurant, sharing what appeared to be a very costly dinner with Derek. And then, posted just yesterday, Jessica showing off a pair of shoes that even I could tell were expensive. The red soles gave them away, Christian Louboutin maybe. I'd seen them in movies. My hands were shaking as I opened our text conversation. I needed to give her the benefit of the doubt. There had to be an explanation. Hey Jess, saw your Instagram post. Cute bag, where did you get it? The response came back quickly. Thanks, picked it up yesterday. Found a great deal downtown. A great deal on a Louis Vuitton bag. I felt something cold and heavy settling in my stomach. Must have been some deal. Those bags are usually pretty expensive, right? This time, it took her 20 minutes to respond. Madison, relax. It's not that serious. You worry too much about money. Relax. I'd just given her $5,000 for a medical emergency, and she was telling me to relax about her luxury shopping spree. But I was trying to be understanding. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. Maybe this was all some misunderstanding that we could clear up with an honest conversation. I'm not worried, just curious. How are Derek's medical bills going? Did you get everything sorted out with the hospital? Another long pause. When she finally responded, it felt like a punch to the gut. Relax, you'll survive. It's just money. Just money. $5,000 of my carefully saved money was just money to her. But more than that, she wasn't even pretending to address my question about Derek's bills. She was dismissing me, treating my legitimate concerns like I was being unreasonable. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. I sat there in my office cubicle, staring at that text message, feeling something I'd never felt toward Jessica before. Not just anger or disappointment, but something deeper. Betrayal. The kind of betrayal that makes you question everything you thought you knew about someone. That evening, I did something I'd never done before with my sister's social media. I really studied it. Not just casual scrolling, but actual investigation. What I found made my heart sink further with each post. The Louis Vuitton bag she'd shown off? I looked it up online. Retail price, $3,200. Even used or on sale, it would have cost at least $2,000. The Christian Louboutin shoes from the day before? $800 minimum. The spa treatment, the expensive dinner, all the little luxuries she'd been posting about over the past week. It was easily adding up to the full $5,000 I'd given her. Maybe more. But the worst part came when I scrolled back through older posts, looking for patterns I'd missed. About 6 months ago, Jessica had gone through what she'd called a really tight financial period on social media. Lots of posts about being broke, eating ramen, struggling to make rent. Posts that had made me feel bad for her. Posts that had made me consider offering help even then. But mixed in with those broke posts were other photos. Jessica at concerts. Jessica trying new restaurants. Jessica with fresh manicures and hair appointments. It was subtle and I'd missed it at the time, but looking back with new eyes, I could see the pattern. The performance of being financially struggling mixed with evidence that she was actually doing just fine. How long had this been going on? How many times had I worried about her finances while she was living better than I was? How many times had I eaten cheap meals and skipped things I wanted so I could save money, thinking my little sister was genuinely struggling? My phone buzzed. Another text from Jessica. BTW, thanks for being such an amazing sister. You literally saved my life last week. The casual cruelty of it hit me like a physical blow. She knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't some misunderstanding or poor financial decision made in the heat of the moment. This was calculated. She had called me, performed desperation and tears, and manipulated me into giving her money that she then immediately spent on luxury items. And now she was thanking me for it, like I'd knowingly funded her shopping spree. I started typing a response maybe 10 times. Angry responses, hurt responses, confused responses asking for explanations. But each time I deleted the message before sending it. Something inside me was saying to wait, to think, to not react emotionally until I understood the full scope of what was happening. So instead of responding, I just let her think she'd won. I let her believe that I was still the same, trusting, easily manipulated big sister who would give her money whenever she cried hard enough. Because something told me this story was far from over, and I was going to need to be smarter than I'd ever been before. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls from Jessica. 37, all between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. The voicemails were increasingly frantic, increasingly desperate. Something about needing money for Derek's prescriptions, about another emergency, about how she knew I'd understand, because I was the only one who really cares about family. But this time, I didn't answer. I got dressed, made my coffee, and went to work like any other day. Because now I understood something about my sister that I'd been blind to for years, and I was going to need time to figure out exactly what to do about it. As I sat in my car in the office parking lot, drinking my coffee and listening to the increasingly desperate voicemails, I made a decision that would change everything between us. I wasn't going to confront her directly. Not yet. I was going to let her keep thinking she could manipulate me while I figured out just how deep this pattern went. And then, when I had the full picture, when I understood exactly what I was dealing with, I was going to make sure it never happened to anyone else in our family again. But first, I needed to do some digging, starting with Jessica's room the next time I visited my parents' house, because if she was this comfortable lying to me about money, I had a feeling there were other secrets I needed to uncover. Secrets that might explain how my sweet little sister had become someone I barely recognized. The thought scared me, but not as much as the possibility of staying blind to the truth any longer. The opportunity to investigate came sooner than I expected. Mom called on Friday evening, asking if I wanted to come over for Sunday dinner. Jessica will be there too, she mentioned casually. She's been asking about you, wondering why you haven't been responding to her messages. Perfect. I'd been avoiding Jessica's increasingly desperate calls and texts for 3 days, and apparently she was starting to panic enough to involve our parents. This was exactly the opening I needed. Sunday afternoon, I arrived at my parents' house in Bellevue with a plan. Jessica's car wasn't in the driveway yet, which meant I had maybe 20 minutes before she showed up. I hugged Mom and Dad, made small talk about work, and then excused myself to use the bathroom upstairs, the one right next to Jessica's old room, which she still used whenever she stayed over. The door was unlocked. Jessica had always been careless about privacy, probably because she'd never imagined anyone would look too closely at her life. Her room looked the same as it had in high school. Band posters, fairy lights, makeup scattered across the vanity. But now I was looking with different eyes, searching for evidence of the person I was beginning to realize my sister really was. I started with her desk. Receipts, makeup samples, hair ties. Typical Jessica clutter. But underneath a stack of fashion magazines, I found something that made my blood run cold. A small pink notebook with goals and dreams written in glittery script across the cover. The kind of journal a teenager might keep, except Jessica was 25 years old. I flipped it open, and what I found inside wasn't dreams or aspirations. It was a list. A very detailed, very calculated list of names with notes next to each one. And right there at the top, in Jessica's loopy handwriting, Madison, easy target, will give money if I cry enough. Always feels guilty for having more than me. My hands were trembling as I read further. Below my name were 11 others. Tyler, Jessica's ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago. Next to his name, saved up for engagement ring, very generous when emotional. Then our cousin Michael. Trust fund baby, doesn't understand real money problems. And Brian, a guy from her restaurant job. Single dad, soft spot for people in crisis. But it got worse. Each name had a dollar amount next to it. Tyler, $2,000. Michael, $2,500. Brian, $800. The list went on with amounts ranging from a few hundred to several $1,000s. At the bottom of the page, Jessica had written a running total, $23,400. $23,400. Jessica had systematically manipulated nearly 24 people over the course of what looked like 2 years, extracting money from them with carefully crafted sob stories. And my $5,000 wasn't even the largest amount on the list. I photographed every page of that notebook with my phone, my heart pounding so hard I was sure someone would hear it downstairs. There were detailed notes about each person's weaknesses, their trigger points, the best times to approach them. Next to my name, she'd written, best approached on weekday evenings when she's tired from work. Mention family emergencies or Derek's problems. Never ask for too much at once. The clinical precision of it was what horrified me most. This wasn't impulsive behavior or poor judgment. This was premeditated emotional manipulation, planned and executed with the efficiency of a business operation. I was still photographing the notebook when I heard Jessica's voice downstairs talking to Mom about traffic on I-405. I quickly put everything back exactly as I'd found it and slipped out of her room, making it to the bathroom just as her footsteps started up the stairs. Madison? She called out. Are you here? Just washing my hands, I called back, forcing my voice to sound normal. Be right down. When I came downstairs, Jessica immediately wrapped me in a hug that felt like a performance. I've been trying to reach you all week. I was getting worried. Sorry, work's been crazy, I lied smoothly. You know how end-of-month accounting gets. Throughout dinner, I watched Jessica with new eyes. The way she casually mentioned being short on rent this month, probably hoping someone would offer help. The way she brought up Derek's ongoing medical issues with just the right amount of worried girlfriend concern. The way she complimented Mom on her cooking while subtly hinting that she'd been living on cheap food lately. But what struck me most was how good she was at it. If I hadn't found that notebook, if I didn't know what I knew, I probably would have offered her more money before the evening was over. She was that convincing, that skilled at reading people and pushing exactly the right emotional buttons. After dinner, as we were loading the dishwasher, Jessica tried again. Madison, I hate to ask, but Derek's prescriptions are really expensive, and with everything that's been going on... Actually, Jess, I interrupted, I've been thinking about the money I lent you last week. When do you think you might be able to start paying it back? The shift in her expression was subtle but unmistakable. For just a fraction of a second, the mask slipped, and I saw something cold and calculating in her eyes before the helpless victim persona returned. Oh, Madison, I know, and I feel terrible about it. It's just that things are still really tight and... No rush, I said quickly. I was just curious about timing. I needed her to think she still had me fooled while I figured out my next move. Because what I discovered today changed everything. This wasn't just about my $5,000 anymore. This was about protecting other people from becoming victims of Jessica's schemes. The next morning at work, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible to me just a week earlier. I was going to track down the other people on Jessica's list. I was going to find out how many lives she'd damaged with her lies. And then I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who Jessica Chen really was. I started with the names I recognized. Tyler first, since I still had his number from when he and Jessica were dating. We'd gotten along well back then, and I'd always wondered why their relationship had ended so abruptly. Tyler, it's Madison, Jessica's sister. I hope you don't mind me calling. Madison, hey, it's good to hear from you. How are things? Actually, that's kind of why I'm calling. I wanted to ask you about something, and I hope this doesn't sound weird, but did Jessica ever ask you for money? Like a substantial amount? The silence on the other end of the line stretched long enough that I thought he might have hung up. Why are you asking? He finally said, and I could hear the wariness in his voice. Because she asked me for $5,000 last week for Derek's medical bills, and then I saw her buying designer bags the next day. Jesus Christ! Tyler's voice was quiet, but I could hear the anger underneath it. 5,000? Madison, she got me for $2,000 about 6 months before we broke up. Told me her car needed emergency repairs and she couldn't afford to fix it. Said she'd pay me back as soon as her next paycheck came in. Did she ever pay you back? Not a penny. And you want to know the kicker? 2 weeks after I gave her the money, she showed up to a party driving a newer car than the one that supposedly needed repairs. When I asked her about it, she said a friend had loaned it to her while hers was in the shop. But I saw the registration in the glove box when she asked me to get her sunglasses. The car was in her name, purchased the same week I gave her the money. Tyler had more to tell me. Jessica had been systematically going through his circle of friends, asking for smaller amounts from different people. When Tyler started putting the pieces together, she'd broken up with him, claiming he was controlling and suspicious about her finances. I should have said something to you back then, Tyler said, but I figured she was just young and stupid with money. I never imagined it was deliberate. It's not your fault, I told him. She's apparently gotten very good at this. After hanging up with Tyler, I felt sick to my stomach. But I also felt something else: determination. Jessica had been counting on her victims' shame and embarrassment to keep them silent. She'd been counting on people being too proud to admit they'd been manipulated. But what if they weren't silent anymore? My next call was to Michael, our cousin. He was harder to reach, busy with law school at University of Washington. But when I finally got him on the phone, his story was depressingly familiar. Jessica had asked him for $1,500 to help with unexpected medical expenses after a minor car accident. She'd shown him fake medical bills and everything. The bills looked real, Michael said. I mean, I had no reason to question them. She's family. But when I asked her about paying me back a few months later, she acted like I was being petty for bringing up money between relatives. Michael, I think she's done this to a lot of people. How would you feel about confronting her about it? Together? You mean like an intervention? More like an exposure. I think she needs to face consequences for what she's been doing. And I think other people deserve to know what she's capable of. Michael was quiet for a long moment. You know what? Yeah, I'm in. I've been wondering for months how many other people she's pulled this with. If we can stop her from doing it to anyone else. By Thursday, I'd contacted 6 of the people from Jessica's list. Every single one had a story. Every single one had been manipulated, lied to, and financially exploited by my sister. And every single one was ready to do something about it once they realized they weren't alone. But it was my conversation with Chloe Martinez that gave me the final piece I needed to completely expose Jessica's operation. Chloe had been Jessica's best friend since high school, though they'd had a falling out about a year ago that Jessica had blamed on jealousy and growing apart. When I called Chloe, she was initially hesitant to talk. I don't really want to get involved in family drama, Madison, she said. This isn't family drama, Chloe. This is about Jessica systematically stealing money from people by lying to them. Did she ever ask you for money? Another long silence, then $2,000. She said she needed emergency surgery for a cyst that her insurance wouldn't cover. She was crying, she was scared. She showed me medical paperwork. Let me guess, the paperwork was fake and she never had surgery. How did you... Chloe stopped. Madison, what exactly is going on? I told her everything. The pink notebook, the list of names, the pattern of manipulation I'd discovered. When I finished, Chloe was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Chloe, are you there? I have a recording, she said quietly. From about 8 months ago, right before we stopped being friends. Jessica got drunk at my birthday party and started bragging about how easy it was to get money from people. She specifically mentioned you, actually. Said you were the easiest target because you always felt guilty about having a stable job when she was struggling. My blood ran cold. Do you still have it? Yeah, I kept it because, I don't know, I guess I knew someday I might need proof of what she was really like. She said some horrible things that night, Madison. About you, about Tyler, about all the people she'd manipulated. She was laughing about it. Chloe, I'm planning to confront Jessica about all of this. Publicly. Would you be willing to play that recording? When? Her 25th birthday party is this Saturday. At Olive Garden on Pine Street. She's invited pretty much everyone she knows, including several people from her list. It would be the perfect opportunity to make sure everyone knows what she's been doing. Madison, are you sure about this? This is going to destroy her. I thought about the pink notebook. About the clinical notes describing how to manipulate me? About Tyler's heartbreak when he realized his girlfriend had been using him? About Michael's confusion when Jessica made him feel guilty for asking for his own money back? About all the people whose trust and generosity had been weaponized against them? She destroyed herself, Chloe. I'm just making sure everyone else knows about it. Okay, Chloe said finally. I'll be there. Saturday evening, I stood outside Olive Garden, watching through the windows as Jessica's birthday party got into full swing. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than some people's rent, paid for with money stolen from the very people now celebrating her. The irony was so bitter it made me nauseous, but I wasn't nauseous with nerves anymore. I was calm, focused. I had everything I needed. Screenshots of the pink notebook, bank records showing the timing of my transfer and her purchases, testimonies from 6 victims, and Chloe's recording of Jessica bragging about her manipulations. I walked into the restaurant and made my way to the party room, where about 40 people were gathered around several pushed-together tables. Jessica spotted me immediately and waved me over with a huge smile. "Madison, I was wondering if you were going to make it." I hugged her back, thinking about how this would be the last time I'd ever pretend everything was fine between us. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Jess. Happy birthday." The party went on for about an hour. Jessica opened presents, posed for photos, and basked in the attention of all the people she'd lied to and stolen from. Tyler was there, looking uncomfortable but determined. Michael sat near the back, checking his phone nervously. Chloe had positioned herself where she could film everything that was about to happen. Finally, as people were starting to think about dessert, I stood up and tapped my water glass with a fork. "Excuse me, everyone. I'd like to say something for Jessica's birthday." The room quieted down, and Jessica beamed at me from the head of the table. "Ah, Madison, you don't have to." "Actually, I do." I pulled out my phone and opened the photos of the pink notebook. "Jessica, I found something interesting in your room last week. A little pink notebook where you've been keeping track of all the people you've stolen money from." The change in the room was immediate. Jessica's smile froze on her face, and several people started murmuring among themselves. "Madison, what are you talking about?" Jessica's voice was higher now, strained. "I haven't stolen anything from anyone." "Really? So you didn't write this list?" I held up my phone, showing the first page of the notebook. "Madison, easy target, will give money if I cry enough." Tyler, saved up for engagement ring, very generous when emotional. Michael, trust fund baby, doesn't understand real money problems. Tyler stood up. "You wrote that about me? After I helped you when you said your car was broken? And you wrote that about me too?" Michael's voice was cold with anger. "After I gave you $1,500 for medical bills that never existed?" Jessica looked around the room frantically, but there was nowhere to run. Too many people were staring at her now, too many pieces clicking into place in too many minds. "This is crazy," she said, but her voice was shaking. "Madison, why are you trying to humiliate me at my own birthday party?" "I'm not trying to humiliate you, Jessica. I'm trying to protect people from you." I looked around the room at faces that were growing more and more understanding by the second. How many of you has she asked for money? How many of you has she told some sob story about emergencies or medical bills or financial crises? Hands started going up around the room. First one, then 3, then 7. People who had never connected their individual experiences with Jessica, now realizing they'd all been victims of the same scam. That's when Chloe stood up. "And I have proof of what she really thinks about all of you." She held up her phone. "This is Jessica, 8 months ago, drunk at my birthday party, bragging about how easy it is to manipulate people." The recording was crystal clear, Jessica's voice unmistakably her own. "Madison is so easy, you guys. I just have to mention Derek having problems or some family emergency, and she'll transfer money to my account within 10 minutes. She always feels so guilty about having more than me. And Tyler? God, he was like a human ATM. I'd cry about needing car repairs or whatever, and he'd just hand over his credit card. These people are so fucking gullible, it's almost sad." The silence in that room was deafening. Jessica's face had gone completely white, and she was gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles were showing. Jessica, I said quietly, according to your own notebook, you've stolen $23,400 from people who trusted you, people who cared about you, people who are sitting in this room right now. I can explain, she started, but her voice cracked. Can you explain why you told me Derek needed $5,000 for medical bills and then spent that money on a Louis Vuitton bag? I pulled up her Instagram posts on my phone. Can you explain why you're wearing a $3,000 dress to your birthday party while telling people you can't afford rent? More murmuring around the room. People were putting together their own pieces now, remembering inconsistencies they'd ignored, lies they'd chosen to believe because Jessica was family or friend or someone they cared about. Jessica tried one last manipulation. Fine. Yes, I asked for money. But I'm family, Madison. We're supposed to help each other. You're making this into something it's not. Help each other? Tyler's voice cut across the room. Jessica, you wrote a list of our psychological weaknesses so you could more effectively lie to us. That's not family helping family. That's fraud. And that word, fraud, seemed to break something in Jessica. She looked around the room at 40 faces staring at her with a mixture of anger, disappointment, and disgust. People who had loved her, trusted her, celebrated with her, and been systematically betrayed by her. I'm sorry, she whispered, but it was too little and far too late. Sorry doesn't give Tyler back the money he saved for an engagement ring, I said. Sorry doesn't undo the months Michael spent worrying about whether he was a bad cousin for asking for his money back. Sorry doesn't fix the damage you've done to people who cared about you. Jessica looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before, defeat. Not the performance of defeat she'd used to manipulate people, but real, complete defeat. She knew her game was over. 3 months later, I was having coffee with Chloe when she showed me Jessica's latest Instagram post. It was a photo of a paycheck from a retail job with the caption, "Earned honestly, paying back debts slowly but surely. I have a lot to make up for." She's actually working, Chloe said, sounding surprised. Real work, not just asking people for money. Jessica had managed to pay back $8,000 so far, still had over $15,000 to go. She'd also posted a public apology on all her social media accounts, admitting to what she'd done and promising to make amends. Some people had accepted the apology and were willing to work with her on repayment plans. Others, understandably, wanted nothing to do with her ever again. My relationship with Jessica would never be the same. The trust was gone, possibly permanently. But watching her take actual steps toward making things right gave me something I hadn't expected. Hope. Not hope that we'd go back to being the same sisters we used to be, but hope that she could become someone better than the person she'd been. You know what I learned from all this? I told Chloe. Sometimes protecting people from someone you love is the most loving thing you can do. For them, and for the person who's hurting them. Jessica had spent years thinking she was cleverer than everyone else, that she could manipulate and lie and steal without consequences. What she'd learned the hard way was that secrets have a way of coming out, especially when you write them down in pink notebooks and leave them where your accountant sister can find them. As for me, I'd learned that sometimes the people who know us best are also the people most capable of hurting us. But I'd also learned that being family doesn't mean accepting abuse, financial or otherwise. It means setting boundaries, demanding honesty, and sometimes making hard choices that feel like betrayal but are actually protection. The pink notebook was still in my desk drawer at home. I kept it as a reminder that trust, once broken, has to be earned back through actions, not words. And that sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone you love is refuse to enable their worst impulses. Jessica was learning to earn money honestly for the first time in her adult life, and I was learning that love without boundaries isn't love at all, it's just another form of manipulation, even when you're the one being taken advantage of. We were both becoming different people than we'd been before that confrontation. Whether we'd ever be sisters again remained to be seen. But at least now, we were both finally being honest about who we really were.